Hello, I'm David Slack, these are my hands, and this is a theatre I designed with Clive Hicks-Jenkins for Beauty and the Beast, which is to run alongside really his beautiful new book, which is illustrated with the writer Olivia McCannon, who also wrote a script for this, lovely, and she wrote the lyrics to some music by Paul Sartin as well. So if you're very, very clever, you can make this theatre and play the music. So, it comes in a lovely cellophane bag. Oh, it's so matte. I was really hoping they were going to be able to print it really, really matte and beautifully soft but intense, and it's just lovely. Look at that, it's so nice. Right, we also asked for it to be in a gatefold. Is that a gatefold? It's a gatefold. Folder, so that you can store all your pieces in it afterwards, or you don't have to make it up. Some of these pages are so lovely, they could be framed, I think. They're just gorgeous. Ugh, lovely. So there's 10 pages overall, 6 on this side, 4 on this side, because we've got the play script over here, an introduction by Clive Hicks-Jenkins. I've written some instructions here. I think it's quite simple. I don't think you'll need it, but I've also drawn some as well. I mean, you won't need the written instructions if you look at the drawings, but I just want to point out a few things, I suppose, which is why I'm doing this. Okay, so first of all, the stage are the first few pages. I wanted to hide them at the back and have the pretty pages at the front, but Clive said they needed to be at the beginning, and of course now I can see how right he was. So, stage floor. These are sort of stage walls at the back, and a column across the top which strengthens it. They're quite deep sides because we wanted the back to be like a black box really, so that not much light gets in. Lots of light can come in the side to light up the puppets, but there's a lovely deep void at the back. Here's parts of the proscenium. This is the top. Oh, look at that, it's so beautiful. They've just printed it so beautifully. While I was making it, I'd done lots and lots and lots of digital prints, and they all looked really good. Printers are so great at home, but you couldn't get quite the right card. But there's something slightly smoky and smouldering about the way they've done this, because I think it's uncoated card, so it's sort of there's some dieback, and it's just so lovely. So you'll need that one, and you'll need that one, because there's one piece at the other side of the stage over here. Now, obviously, it's your choice. You can cut it with a blade, a very good sharp blade, or a pair of scissors. There's some straight lines, but remember, this is paper theatre. This isn't, an architect's model. It's a toy, and it wants to be handmade. Cut them out as well as you can, but don't worry too much, Right, I think I'll start with the base. First of all, we have page 1. Let's start with page 1. This is the stage. It's the stage floor, and it's obviously a box type construction. It's very, very simple. You can use scissors. You can use little tiny scissors. I've got a lovely little pair of scissors. These I bought from a haberdasher's, and they go mad if you tell them you're going to use them on paper, so I have to lie. But they're so good, and they've got a really fine point. And these are really good. You can use a scalpel or a craft knife, but these little scissors are brilliant at snipping into these little sections here. It's just great. But I'll probably get my scalpel out for around the outsides, because it's fast and easy, and you're guaranteed to get a good line. I'm using one of these. I found it in my studio. I don't know how long it's been there, and I've never really used it much until I started making this theatre, and now I can see the advantage. It's really great. You can really put some pressure down, and by the way, you don't have to worry about marking this. I've done some extensive research, and first of all, I was thinking, you're gonna have to cut on the outside, but this is a really good tough finish. It's not going to be when I was making this, it was in inkjet print, inkjet paper. Looked beautiful, but it scratched, so easily. I've just gone off there a little bit. I would say, obviously, the most important thing is that you use a really good, sharp blade. They cost pence, and it absolutely changes your experience. I never used to change my blades, and I'd just be effing and jeffing through a project, but this is just lovely. I've just put this one in, and it just glides through. Now, the reason I'm putting the blade on top of here, and even though you think, oh, this could dink it, which it won't actually, but because, I don't know if you just noticed, I just went off then, just by a millimetre, and if it was the other way around, I would have cut into the stage. Would have been a bit narked. Sellotape would have fixed it. It'd be okay. Even so, you don't want to be doing that, do you? So, just very gently stroke, and try and keep, where you can, try and keep your blade, you know, perpendicular with the surface rather than angling it each side. I got a feeling that these lovely things are designed to make oblique cuts, you know, for mounts perhaps, I don't know. But the one thing for sure is, if you've ever cut with a ruler and a blade, you know how difficult it is to get that pressure, you know, a long line, it just skids about, doesn't it? But these are really, really good. Can't imagine they're very expensive to buy. It says the Maun, M-A-U-N, safety rule. I would love to have one without the letters on the side, the numbers, the measurements. Sounds a bit weird, but they make a sort of scratching kind of, without that you'd get a beautiful swish. So that's that done. I'm going to cut across the front with the ruler as well, because I feel that you want to get these kind of really in line with one another. Don't worry too much while you're making this. Do it as accurately as you can, but it's paper, so don't worry. If you chop the wrong bit off, you can just stick it back on from behind. And if you don't cut enough off, go back and do it again. But it's not a problem, it's paper, it's not, you know, gold or something. So there we go. I just would show you, obviously you can imagine, can't you? It's obvious. We fold on a dotted line, don't we? And with this model, I think in every case, we fold back. So you don't have to think about that. Just here though, can you see there's a cut line? Any straight solid lines are cut lines, obviously. Boom, boom, boom. So we're going to cut into there and fold there. It's not so easy to see because I had to put a glue tab quite near it. And I thought if I put just a little square in the middle, it'll look a bit silly. Anyway, it's obvious. I'm sorry, I'm teaching my grandmother to suck eggs, I'm sure. But what I'll do is, I kind of like to get rid of excess a little bit. And I am cutting this at sort of arm's length as well, so forgive me if I look a little bit cack-handed. Don't worry about the end of these tabs, they're all going to be completely and utterly hidden, obviously. They're down behind the apron of the stage. These scissors are so lovely because you can just judge right to the end of the cut. And sometimes you can't always see, can you, where you're going. So, and again, there's a cut right down there. Now, to make this shape work really well afterwards, you just want to get the scissors or the blade. If you've got clumpy old scissors, I would definitely recommend doing this with a blade, because what you really need, the only thing you need to think about, doesn't matter how you cut this, as long as you stop right at that line, go right up to that line. And then when you fold these tabs down, what you're going to get is an automatic curve. Might look like it's a bit of hard work trying to fold a curve, but it absolutely isn't. These tabs are the right size to make that curve, and is hidden actually. The very front of the stage, the apron, the decorative panel that's going to sit over the front of the stage is probably, you know, 3 or 4 mil higher than the stage. And I've done that so that you don't have to look at any folded paper anywhere on this. So it's really neat and sharp without you having to put too much effort in. You know, this is not a complicated thing to do, but it's a fun thing to do, so do enjoy it. I know it's a bit difficult, it's a bit different when you've just paid for a book and then you're chopping it up. Terrifying, Thing to do probably is to buy 2, which I probably will. Well, I would normally. Unless I ruin loads of these videos, I might even have one left for myself at the end. So, that's that. Let's cut down these little sections here as accurately as you can. But as I say, don't worry about it too much. I keep saying do it accurately, and we do want to, this wants to be quite square. But really, let's face it, you can't go wrong, can you? And it doesn't even matter if you've accidentally cut the tabs off of these. Doesn't matter. Fold it up, stick it together on the back with sellotape. It'll be great. Okay, so there we go. Now, for the scoring. I've just discovered that I've got a lovely tool. It's like a, just a point. It's not a sharp point. It's made by Hicks by the looks. I think it was for picking out, you know, when you're die cutting paper, for picking little bits out of the blades and what have you, you know. Well, you know, you wouldn't want to stab yourself with it. But anyway, you know, just something that's got a point. And Clive tends to use a dining knife, you know, a table knife, which works perfectly well. There's all that thing about, you know, using pens that have run out of ink and all of that, if you can find one. I don't know about knitting needles. Well, you want something that's a bit closer than that, but just try and follow these lines as best you can. And as I say, I don't know whether it looks like I'm pushing hard, but I'm not really. Haven't done these, have I? No, you haven't. So here we go. Bidum, bidum, bidum. Bidum, bidum, bidum. Go across there. Then I'm just going to do these by hand, I think. You could put a ruler there. I'm not going to do a curve, really. I'm just doing almost like a straight line between each piece. That's all you need to do. You probably don't even need to do this. But I am doing it just to help the paper fold where you want it to fold. But it's not the end of the world if you cock this up, because it's covered by a gloriously illustrated apron, which we'll see in a minute. Boop. There. So there we go. Now, I've put glue on there, which you obviously can do. Yes, I know that rhymes. I'm not going to say it. So, I don't know. I'm a big fan of double-sided tape myself. I've done a lot of this in double-sided tape. The thing I don't like about glue on paper is it's just sounds a bit stupid. It's a bit wet. You know, and then you're holding it, and I don't know. I don't like the feel of glue soaking into paper. So fold back these tabs, plink, plonk. What I love about this is it just very, very, very gently incisors the surface. I don't think this is coated paper, actually. There's some, it's got a beautiful, because nothing peels off it if you know, have to cut it a few times. But you get a beautiful, I really like that. I'll probably be going over that with felt tip. But if I was making that as a sculptural box, I would definitely be leaving that line. It's really, really lovely, but we don't really want lines on this. So, fold those in, fold that down. It's all very obvious, isn't it? And then plonk, 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 plonk. Get all of these things folded right back and in, because you don't want it to be forcing itself open once you've made it. Nothing more annoying. Well, I bet there are some more annoying things, but I can't think of any offhand. That would be really, it's like super annoying. So, bum, bum, bum. There we go. Now, use glue if you like, if you want to use the tiniest amount of, this is not this brand particularly, it's fine, it's good, but it's you can get really dry, really quick drying white glues, and you just put, I'll just put a bit on here and show you. This is where I normally end up going off screen. Oh, there's a lovely bit of something to peel off there, that's satisfying. So, okay, can you see this? I think you can. I'm just, yeah, I would want to use, honestly, I know I'm moving this around. I'm just smearing the little bit of glue that I put on because I really don't want to, you don't really want to have so much glue on there that when you squeeze it, you suspect it can move because it's just too much. When I was making the model up of this, I was clamping these, I just clamped these shut with a clothes peg and then left it sitting like that while it dried, and that works really well. But actually this glue dries really fast, so you can use that. I'll show you double-sided tape elsewhere in the model, I think. There's a part of me prefers glue because of the strength. One of the wonderful things though about double-sided tape is that you can if you go wrong, you can peel it apart, and if you maybe just want to flatten the model out again and pack it away, you could peel it apart, but you'd have to put something over the tape so that you didn't put it in its envelope and everything came out stuck to it, obviously. But you can find something, can't you? Put a bit of paper over it or something. It's sort of more foolproof. If I was working with kids doing this, little kids or something, I would probably say use double-sided tape because it's super satisfying. It's an instant fix in every sense of the word. I better put some over here. Bump. Close that up. Close that up. Give it a pinch, give it a pinch. It's really fast. Boom. There you've got your stage. This is what I'm going to do. This is your stage floor, rather. This isn't the whole stage, in case you were a bit disappointed. I'm going to get my felt tip. And I looked on the video, and where this is wet, this looks like I'm not covering the white properly, but when it dries, this is from your perspective, it looks like that, but it doesn't from where I am. It looks absolutely jet black. It's lovely. Won't worry too much about going on the stage. Obviously, most of this is going to be covered, but I would just do, you know, so you don't get a glimmer of white along the back of your stage. Sorry, I think I might have gone off screen again then. You don't really need to see me doing this anyway, do you? Bump. Bum 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 bum. Bidom bidom bidom. Oops. Don't worry about it. There. Do I need to do that bit? I can't remember if I need to do that bit. I'll tell you what I will do though. I do want to do around here. You know, just in case. The cat's going to be looking in there, isn't he? He'll look down and see that, even if no other people can ever see down in there. But yeah, that's nice. It's just satisfying. The other thing to remember, I've not remembered it, put your lid back on your glue, you know what happens. Okay, that's the base. Simple. And now we are going to cut out the beams that go across the top and the side walls in the back. It's a back column really, and what happens is we fold this against the back and that goes along the side, so that when you're looking into the stage at the back, it's closed in by a couple of inches, and it makes a lovely black box in the back so that you don't get light traveling sideways, so you've got a lovely black void in the back. You can light from the top if you like, and it doesn't affect it. It's just really lovely. So I'm just going to cut this out. You don't need to see me doing this, but I will just point out that this chunky bit does need to be cut out, obviously. I've done that because this is folded over into boom, a sandwich, and then that end doubled over then folds that way. So in here we needed a bit of a gap so that it wasn't straining. It gives it a nice sort of hinge, and that holds the back onto the front. That gets glued onto the back of the proscenium in the next stage. So I'll just cut this out using a blade, and I'll do that in fast forward because you don't need to see this. No one needs to see that. or something like that. Okay, so I'll tell you why I'm going to tell you to do this with double-sided tape, because in a moment when we get to attaching the front to the back, sometimes you need to peel it off and just give it a little jiggle left, right or centre, you know, just to make it fit springy and comfortable without feeling like you're warping it in any way. So it says glue there, but never one to stick to the rules. I'm going to put a bit of double-sided tape on it. Now, I'm telling you all this about double-sided tape, how fantastic it is that you can remove it and what have you, but you know, I'm guessing there are probably different levels of permanence, and I can't tell you what this one is, but it's just, I've got a feeling it's one of those, it was sold in a framing suppliers, but just a sort of craft shop, you know, nothing posh, and there was loads of them for £1 or something, you know. So that looked easy, and it is easy. Look, if you keep that on the floor and you get that pushed into the corners, that's your lot, you're done. Oh no, look at that, I messed that up. So I didn't get it close enough, so double-sided tape, peel it off. Oh, look at that, that's joyous, isn't it? So okay, let's do that again, shall we? I want that resting on the floor before I do anything. Really get that corner wedged in there. I hope you can see, but you get my drift, don't you? Get the gist. There we go, nice and springy in the corner. In a minute, as I say, we might need to bend that down that way or that way, just a millimetre sometimes, if necessary, maybe not. It's very satisfying, this, using double-sided tape, and as I say, you sort of get the sense that if you need to take it down, or want to be able to take it down, take it apart, if you use double-sided tape throughout, I will say that it's quite possible that if it's in a really cold environment, my studio got a little bit cold when I stopped using it, and the paper one that I experimented with, there's a couple of joints popped open a little bit, but nothing to write home about. It's so convenient. I think it's probably worthwhile. I would say glue is a more permanent bond, obviously, and if you think no, this is good, or even if you think no, I like it, I've done it, I like it, take it apart, peel the tape off. It's easy to peel off. Wallop glue on, bash it together. There you go. Now you have to do a little bit of thinking now. This is the front of the stage. Not a lot of thinking, I will tell you that. You want that to bend that way because the stage is going to be here. So, and you want that to be a nice, as I've told you before, I've told you this before, put that on there. So what we want is, and again I'm going to use tape, yeah, I'll put some tape around the top. Let's get the stuff off. And basically you want to be closing this up as well. So put a nice long strip of tape, oops, quite near the edge of this, because you want it to close up and not come open. So can you see where I'm doing that? I'm not being very generous with this tape, am I? I'm skimping a little bit, so we want to put another bit just inside here. Duk, duk, duk. Don't be too precious with this. Look, it's springy. The card is really, really strong. You know, you don't have to worry about bending it. And also, as soon as you do an L shape that's attached like this, it's really super strong. When the cube is finished, you could throw it across a room. So then what do we do? Now I will put another little bit in here. It's quite important that this closes up. And again, obviously you can be using glue. I'm sort of experimenting, to be honest, because I'd done the first one in glue. When it was finished, it was really good, but I don't know, I find it a bit stressful to use somehow. So what we want to do is, you know, maybe get that really, just a really nice tight fit over there. Can you see? Just line it up. Do it by feel. It's not the end of the world if you mess it up, because we can. But double-sided tape in there makes it, I don't know, I feel like it gives it an extra layer of something. And we'll be doing this bit in a minute too. So let's do the other side. So we've got this far. I hate it when people start with so, and I'm doing it. What's going on? Let's put some double-sided on there then. Fold these bits over. I cut my nails to do this. What happens? I need the blooming things. So, I must say it's much faster to do with double-sided tape. I think with most paper crafts, I use double-sided tape all the time now. Things that I used to, you know, really complicated, you know, I build, if I'm doing a painting, I sometimes die cut a little house or something, fold it up, and you've got your fingers wedged down chimney pots, waiting for the glue to dry. And I don't think you need it. Okay, so there we go. And from the top, that's pretty good. You know, we've got those lined up. That's a bit of a wonky little bit there, but that doesn't matter. That's going to be behind the stage. I'll go over that with a felt tip anyway. No one will be any of the wiser. I will just quickly go over these because it's bothering me, and it can look so much nicer. Yeah, I really do skid off a lot when I'm using these. I wouldn't necessarily recommend. I like this. Doesn't matter if I get a bit of some marks on the side. It actually disappears. This is a Pitt pen, which is what's it called? The sort of ink that India ink. So when it's dry, though it's water-based, when it's dry, you can watercolor over it, ink over it. You know, it's not non-water soluble once it's dry. Okay, bop it up, it up, it up. I do think you're going to need to get these nice and black. Okay, if you want to be looking down at your stage, you shouldn't see off the wings too much anyway, but if you should happen to stick your head in, then you don't want to be seeing a bit of white line down there, do you? No, you don't. Great. So that's the theatre done. All we've got to do now is apply the proscenium. Okay, I am going to glue this. I've just looked at the instructions on this glue, and it doesn't say leave it to dry to go a bit tacky first. So I'm just going to just see if I can use as little as possible. You need to use so little. You don't want it screwing out, and also you just don't want the paper to be getting wet and it slips under your thumb as you try to attach it, you know. So I'm not selling this, am I? So just hold that on there and there. Oops. So once you've applied your glue, you want this to have a little bit of a step up, so match that, fit that over there. You see, so you can just see a bit of that. And give it a good squeeze. Give it a good squeeze. You can see there's just a little bit over it. You can have it higher if you like, but that's what you've got. You end up with a nice little skirting board at the back there. And then the top, again, I would just, personally, I'm going to ink. Anything black, I think you can ink. You know, there's an argument for using pencils on the coloured bit because, you know, in case you skid or in case the ink bleeds down, but I don't think it seems to on this particular card. It's really lovely. They've printed it really well. So just offer it up, and what you need to do here is to make sure that's up in that corner. Boop. And that is up in that corner. And again, I apologise if this looks different at the back to what you're going to be looking at. And that means you've got a really perfect square if you get those in the right place. So you could ignore the glue tabs on there and put the glue on here if you wanted to. Doesn't matter. Don't really matter. Okay, just a little bit. Let's squish that around a bit. I don't like seeing a big blob like that. I kind of would like a much finer applicator on one of these, you know, like those needle ones you get sometimes. Could have arranged that, didn't arrange it. So, black on top. This is the bit that's going to be facing into the stage, even though we're looking at the back of it. So look, get that on there. Oh, give it a pinch, make sure it's at 90 degrees, follow it at the top with your finger, you know, and there. Get that as close as you can, make sure that's as flush as you possibly can. Yeah. So glue that, and that's done. I'll say there's a little bit of slipping. I'd usually put a peg on there, but I don't want to overcomplicate the instruction for this really, but that's what you're looking at. That's what you're aiming for. So I'm hoping that's in focus, I'll say. Right, 90 degrees, a good square, 90 degrees and 90 degrees down there. You know, all just judging by running your finger along when you're putting things on, and wherever possible, sticking it by, you know, laying it really flat. Now, I think I will probably put a little blob of glue just to hold that against there, even though it's as a step. So I'm just going to put a little bit in the middle. I've just run along there and just gently stroke that down. That's all you need to do. There it is. That's a really strong, springy base. This is the apron, the bit that goes across the front of the stage, and it actually sturdies everything as well. You can still dip that in the middle, but this really makes it rigid. Now, if you put it in front of the stage, you can see it's simple, obviously, but there's also a little overhang there. That's not flush. We want a little up. We want a little upstand there so that it looks super slick when it's on, and you don't see any folds around here. You don't see any folds anywhere on this theatre. Everything's inside. So you can probably also see that it'll be quite important to that we don't see that white line on top. So super careful now. We weren't going to advise using felt tips, and we didn't in the written instructions, and Clive maybe still wouldn't, but I'm just gonna say we were a bit worried. There was a chance that this could have been printed on a type of paper that would suck the ink out of this and carry over the front, but actually it doesn't. It's good. But whatever you do, go from behind, then you can't go wrong. I'm always skidding off the back. Now, I've put masking tape, double-sided tape. Don't use masking tape, you'll get nowhere fast on each end. And I've also put a strip right along the back. This could be glue. I like double-sided tape. It's particularly good for this bit, but just try it. As I say, if you do put it together, and the double-sided tape isn't, you know, strong enough as you like, if any joints come popping open after a couple of weeks, just peel it off. It peels off beautifully. Put a bit of glue and do it that way. I like this. It's certainly very satisfying to do. It's kind of, you know, instant gratification, and it's just a bit of it's a more positive way of doing it, I think. You know, when you're pinching things together with glue and not exactly sure where they are. Well, I've just made a little bit of a mistake. What I haven't done, I should have probably done first. If you look, Can you see the serrated, the dotted line? Boop, 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 boop. Boop, boop, boop. Those are where we're going to put little score lines. We don't fold it here. This is a little bit of leeway. So if your proscenium isn't glued at exactly 90 degrees, doesn't matter. It's not going to show any. And actually the proscenium doesn't go right to that join. There is a little bit of a space there, but I done that for, you know, allowance for any, you know, slight discrepancy in the make. Doesn't really matter. It's going to look absolutely stunning. But what you do want to do is to make sure that even if you've glued the proscenium slightly off, you don't want to be forcing it to go anywhere. You want to just, that's the next stage, but you want it just to lay there. So obviously what we're going to do, going to put a nice sharp bend in there, and we're going to put a nice sharp bend in there. The other thing I'm going to tell you to do is get those out of the way a bit, because we are going to need to peel this backing off of the double-sided tape along here. You don't want to be running into problems. Now, what I'm going to tell you is put your thumb there. What you want to do is you want to get that right in the corner, and you want to fold that over and get that really flush there. Can you see underneath? And then you just know that that's going to go over, push it right into that corner, and hold that flush. Be guided by getting that into a nice sort of rectangle. They're not exactly the same by the looks. So then what you want to do is just squeeze those on, but I'd be a bit gentle how you hold this. If you put your weight in the middle and bend that up, you're going to be sticking those on in the wrong place. So just hold it quite gently like this, and just feel, and then just literally very gently just lay them on. Don't squeeze them yet, just check it first. That looks really good. Just feel there's a nice upstand. Make sure it sits really nicely. I got a feeling I want to go a little bit higher with this one. Look how easy this is to peel off if you feel like you just want to adjust slightly. Boop, boop. So now you can pinch it a little bit more firmly if you want to. There it is, that's done. On to the next stage. Okay, so now we have our 3 proscenium pieces here cut out, and aren't they lovely? I'm going to use a pencil to get any white edges disappearing. We don't want to see any white edges. This is the pencil that Clive uses, Polychromos Faber-Castell, and it's deep red, number 223, if you want to go the extra mile. But actually, to be honest, no, it's good, actually. It is good. I was only going to say you can use anything, really. You can use anything, but this does, you know, it adds something. You can soften it, or you can do black over the red and it just softens it. Just anyway, it's great. It's done. So now what do? We've got to obviously put these on there, haven't we? Now I've just been, you know, obviously you can match that really perfectly if you want to, and you can use glue. If you use glue, I would want to weigh it down with a book or walk away and leave it for a while, because if it's too wet, the glue, I've done this myself, you know, you get a buckle, you don't want the front buckled, you know. If you want to use glue, just really put it, even if you have to put it on with your finger or something, it doesn't matter. You don't have to get it right to these edges, it's fine. Look, you don't want to have any of that white showing. If you do, colour it over with a pencil. But if you have got a cutting mat, look at this. How brilliant is that? You can just use the grid to make sure, although you want to get that as accurate as possible, use the grid just to make sure you've got really good 90 degrees there. Look, whoosh, whoosh. Then stick it on. Now, I'm tempted to use, in fact, I think I'm going to use some double-sided tape. In fact, you know, I'll use double-sided tape on one side and I'll use glue on the other side, and then we'll see what we think is best. Double-sided tape is kind of easier and it's dry, and it you know, gives it some strength in the fact that it's, you know, I know. So let's just, you know, on that point there, just get a nice, make sure that's following the line, and just get a line that you can follow. And really, it's obvious, isn't it? Look, get that point lined up. And it's in, it's on, and that's staying, that's going nowhere. That's nice. That's a really nice strong bond, obviously. That's great. Right, I've just worked out a good way of doing this, because it's quite fiddly otherwise, but this will be quite simple. Because what you've got to do is glue these two tabs down here and here onto there. That one's got twisted, never mind, twist that back round. But you can't just lay this on its front, and if you try and do it any other way, it's just too difficult. So pretend this is a book. This is just a block, just a wooden block, which I got ready to do a painting on, I think. And you can't lay it on its front because the front of the stage bows out, obviously, as you can see at the bottom. So here we go. I think that's quite a good angle for you to be able to see what's going on. So you're looking through the back of the stage now. This is a piece of scenery. They're all the same size. And so put it in and just make sure that, you know, it's sitting to there, to each side, and also make sure that these two beams reach up to there. My one didn't. I had a twist. I didn't stick it very accurately down here, so this was too low. So I've just unpeeled a joint here, and then I've just twisted it round a little bit. It's no problem actually with that glue. It didn't damage the paper or anything. Put a bit more glue and it's fine. But it's quite important, because imagine you want the curtain to hang really well. You do. And if you do this and make sure this is in the right place, then you're going to get a really nice square, accurate, finished thing, which is going to function well and hold its shape really nicely as well. So don't worry that that's twisted around there at the moment. So do the glue thing, not too much. Really not too much, because you do not want to kink the proscenium. And a bit of glue on this one. Blimey, a bit cack-handed here. Okay, so don't worry that that one's sort of got a bit of a wonk. We can twist that around when we stick it down in a minute, but very little glue on there, because you don't want it squeezing out, because, horror of horrors, we need to put that back in there and check the bottom of that fireplace, for instance. You know, check the bottom is really nice and even. Then push those in and get a really good fit, and then boom, 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 boom. You've done it, and you know it's perfect. So just carefully twist that, take it out. If you think that's a little bit twisted, it is. Doesn't matter, you're not going to see this, but even so, you want it to be quite square, because if you don't get it reasonably square, this bit, and I know it's a bit tricky, then you're going to warp it all a bit, you know. That's great. And one last thing to add, of course, which I glued on off camera, but that's literally these two beams that go across the back at the top and across the bottom. If I show you the back, yours won't look like this. This is a prototype I'm working with. Yours will be white across the back. One of them's slightly broader than the other. And you just glue them into the corners, obviously, at the top. And down here, get the bottom flush. And what you'll have is a nice little skirting here. What that means is when the scenery goes in, you don't get any light traveling in underneath. So that's easy. You could ink across the top of those, or pencil across the top, to make sure they haven't got any lines, for your own pleasure. But again, it's not seen, so that'll be fine. Okay, so this is where we are now. We've got a really good springy, very, very springy, tight theatre. You haven't got to worry about this. It's really, really sturdy, and it's all pulling itself into shape. So then here goes one of the scenes. This is the dining room, the fireplace, of course, in the dining room. Oh, how gorgeous is that? Now, for my money, I'll stick a couple of little electric tea lights in there. That's me done. Bang, on the mantelpiece. Lovely. But there's more. There's scenery to come. Lots of puppets, all sorts. So let's do those next. So here is our awesome stage. Now I've cut out the plain black, the blackout background. And one of the things I thought would be really nice, and works well anyway, is that you can store all of the scenes just in the back there and just slide one over another. So we've blacked everything out. There's a lot of light coming in from a window. I've got a window here, a lovely view, but it'll let too much light through, so I've just explaining that it's usually a bit darker than this inside there, but isn't that great? So now, whoop, these, I've designed these pincer slots here, really. They go to a fine point. They're designed so you can just drop that in, just drop it in, and it doesn't wobble about too much, it grips. So we want the front one and we want the middle one. Have a play with where you put them. Put that one over there. Now, I'll see if I can get the camera down. And there you have your finished theatre, ready to go. I don't want to show you all of the scenes. It's going to be really nice for you to put it together and see it. There's an aperture in 2 of the drop cloths, which more scenery go behind. There's lots of photographs that show you how to set everything up on these scenes. Lovely. I will just show you some of the characters though, because I'd like to show you what I do to make them stand up if you're not going to put them on black sliders. So let's move this out of the way. Okay, now obviously what we need to do is score along the fold line so that he can stand up. Boom, boom, boom. Doesn't need much. Fold it back. You can see you're going to see a little bit of ink there, so that's me with my felt tip. But if you want to use a black pencil, it probably is safer, but I don't know, this is so fast and smooth and easy. I haven't done a perfect job inside those claws yet. Near enough. Now, what I was telling you about how I like to stand these up, mine's going to be sitting on the side looking fantastic somewhere. I'm probably not going to put the sliders on these to act the play. But if you are, this is what you're going to do. Here's a piece of black card. And you can use a bit of cardboard from a cornflake box if you could be bothered to try and colour it black. But I would see if you can find a bit of black card from somewhere. I would almost be tempted to say you could cut the cover up of this theatre, but it's such a lovely thing. You can use it again for keeping all sorts of things in, and you can fold the puppets open flat afterwards and use them again, obviously. So make a nice slice. It's got to be fairly long because you want to be able to get this rat running right across the stage and off the other side, preferably without your hand showing, but be hilarious. And as you know, I like me double-sided tape, don't I? So, this is what I'll do. I'll just put a bit of double-sided tape on there. See if I can find a blade or something to... Oh, that's better. Me lifting that off. So then, I'm going to stick my slider on. Don't need to do anything else, but personally, look at that. I do go a bit mad with that felt tip, don't I? So always do anything like that from behind, whatever you're doing. Don't forget the scenery is double-sided, so you probably don't want to use a felt tip on that, really. Could end in tears. So there we have. That's how your rat's going to fly across the stage. Probably a bit more like that. Be-doop-be-doop-be-doop-be-doop-be-doop. After poor Belle, right at the very end of the play. So there's that. But if you don't want to do that, I won't tear that off. But actually I will show you. This is what I like about double-sided tape. Whether it's just this one, I've been using this really cheap skinny one for a long time. And I think framers use it. It's so cheap. But you can just peel it off again. And as I say, don't ever worry about bending your paper. It's paper, it'll fold right back. It's so tough paper, really, isn't it? Just peel it off. But the reason, the thing I wanted to tell you was that I'm going to just be standing. Mine's going to be a beautiful ornament, and I'll probably light it as well. And what I use is a piece of magnetic strip. Look, this is really weighty. Again, cheap as chips. It's just a self-adhesive strip of magnet. I don't know how good it is as a magnet, but it's just so brilliant. Just to cut a little slice of that off with scissors, little chunk, stick it on the back of all of the figures that you want just to stand up on their own. And it just doesn't topple over. It's really good. That's a narrow one, I know, but you can use it on really tall ones. Look, just a little piece that size just holds up my fountain. Isn't it marvellous? Well, that really is everything. All there is to say now is just to have fun. Don't cut yourselves, and enjoy it, because it's just such a lovely thing. And I've had such a joy making this, and Clive has done some beautiful drawings, and I know he's really enjoyed doing it too. Joe's made a brilliant job of the publishing. The printing is just excellent. I know he's very careful to make it as environmentally sound as you could possibly get. Olivia's written a beautiful and hilarious script, and Paul Sartin has done some wonderful music too. So if you want to get your recorder out, you're going to be laughing. So I'll post some photos later, but that's it. Just have fun. Bye now.